August 1975. Before the first school bell rang, demonstrators were in the streets. It became a pattern of protest, the last line of defense for frustrated parents who felt the court was stripping away their power to send their children to neighborhood schools. Anti-busing school board members spoke out until the last second.
But if they bus one child, I don't think it's a great plan.
But the courts had decided thousands of children would be bused after a civil rights attorney successfully argued this point. He said the Black City school system and the affluent white Jefferson County schools were segregated. Melissa Forsyth reported on the development.
The desegregation battle went all the way to the Supreme Court and then was thrown back here into the lap of federal Judge James Gordon. He had originally ruled that the school systems didn't need desegregation, but then had to assume the role of the busing judge.
In the public perception, I was the person who conceived the whole idea from their point of view.
That judge had around-the-clock protection from federal marshals after receiving threats on his life. Even still, he ordered the immediate merger of the city and county schools and wrote up a busing plan for the district. Teachers got special training for desegregated classrooms, and local police tried to prepare. On September 4th, Black and white children boarded school buses that would take them into the unknown territory that was desegregated classrooms. Edward Stanley, a senior at the time, remembered his first trip to Moore High School. He said it was a much longer bus ride to the outer loop compared to his neighborhood school, Male.
It was guards on the bus. Some schools was having riots and stuff like that. And you get so scared until you don't know if you really want to go through with it or not.
A busload of Black students had bottles thrown at them, terrifying the children inside. That night, September 5th, riots broke out in Louisville as thousands of people went to battle against the police. County Police Chief at the time, Russell McDaniel, was in charge.
We were not equipped to deal with the number of people that we were confronted with.
Some officers were seriously hurt before police authorized tear gas to break up the crowd. Then Southern High School on Preston Highway became the protesters' target. Melissa Forsyth was sent to the scene.
When I arrived that night, the first thing I saw was another reporter with blood on his face where he'd been hit by a protester's brick, and then someone threw one at me.
State police and the National Guard were called in to help. It took months for the protests to fully die down, but inside the schools, it didn't take nearly as long. Educators remembered the buildings operating business as usual within a week.
All the problems, all the abuse that some of us had to take, it's worth it because things are getting better.
Still, some parents refused to allow their children to go to school. One mother and father were brought into court, facing truancy charges and up to 1 year in jail. Chuck Olmstead reported on what was then called the white flight, when many parents pulled their children out of JCPS.
10 years ago also saw the development of dozens of new schools where youngsters wouldn't have to be bused. Christian schools.
10 years after busing first started in the district, school leaders said they could see the merger was paying off and the improvement of test scores across the board. But it was never fully accepted, with students and parents attempting to take the fight back to the courtroom multiple times in the decades since.